Where were we? Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 17th episode of the Dancer DLC for Cultist Simulator, playing as Margaret Zell. So I'm starting after a little bit of a break in between recording sessions, so we are going to take a minute here and just review the state of play. We're entering the wood. Now I pass between scar-barked trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. Now I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. Now, we do have the Season of Suspicion going on here, and if I recall correctly, we were working on a strategy a little bit like in the Priest playthrough, where we're going to just try and overwhelm the Suppression Bureau with Mystique. Now, to be honest here, we just need to take a look at the time left on these notoriety cards. So we've got 157 here, that's probably the oldest, 225, and yeah, so 225 is the longest running one. The likelihood is that we're going to get caught by the notoriety, but as is usually the case, there's no point in just sort of lying down and let the Suppression Bureau just barrel over me. There are some things that I can do to try and improve my chances. And one of those things is going to be something that I want to do anyway, which is to try and get more recruits. So we're going to be talking about the esoteric arts and moving on to, taking whatever characters we can find from that. But of course, I also want to be turning in things like the commissions, because that will earn me some mystique. It may also potentially earn me some erudition as well. Which brings me to the other task that I believe we were working on. So I'd been sort of tilting at windmills in terms of trying to get my scholarship up. Now I do have a lesson learnt that I sort of have available to me right now, and I think I'm trying to make a decision here in terms of I think I'd actually settled on something, but I don't exactly remember what it was going to be. Whether I start sort of spamming the reason cards inside study to generate enough the 3 erudition that I need to be able to get the notable scholarship up. To do that, I suppose I'd need 4 runs, so 60 seconds. Basically, I need 2 for the lessons learned, so essentially 60 seconds per, so 2 minutes for each lesson learned. Actually, sorry, it's 3 minutes for each lesson learned, because of course you also need to combine them. And of course we have less than 3 minutes for our existing lesson learned. So I think, if I recall correctly, I think I said I was just going to let this expire down to erudition, unless, of course, something really spectacular happened. I think we were just going to kind of work through the works that we had here, and then, as sort of a last resort, I would start working the reason. I may change that, but that kind of seems to be a good approach. And then, of course, our usual routine, where I can use lantern followers, use lantern cards in order to be able to get additional erudition through a light in the skull. We are continuing to perform at the Gayety. I think that's the right call. I'm trying to remember. I think I'd been working on painting, and painting may be a good idea here. One thing that I could potentially do is I could paint with these 2 notoriety cards, because in the end, I just need 1 notoriety on the table to be dangerous to me. And there's really no penalty if I paint with these 2 expiring notoriety. So, if painting takes me about a minute, I'm still not extending the life of this one. Now, once we hit that level, I think I can really only paint once with these 2, and then they all sort of start moving in lockstep. I could maybe paint with like the single notoriety. And actually, come to think of it, we do also have the staleness. But of course, painting's going to be something that helps generate some mystique as well, so that may be another approach that I want to take. And then, right, we have a hireling, so I don't want to be messing around with that too much, but we may have some use for that later on. But let's just focus on the task at hand. I'm going to ignore my erudition for now. I'm going to finish reading the remaining texts and watch the 1 film that I have. There's actually not that much left. What our target is going to be is, of course, to get some expeditions underway. But of course, that will generate some notoriety, so I want to be a little careful in terms of when we trigger that. And again, if we get lucky, maybe we'll get an erudition out of one of these books. If we don't get an erudition out of one of these books, then we just wind up using our reason as we did before. So The Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 1, A Feast, the first volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is a later English translation. The illustrations are certainly striking. They flush the skin and glow beneath the eyelids after the book is closed. And I think I'm going to head for the... I think I'm going to use the notoriety to paint right away. Alright, so we got lucky. We got a Mystique first round. Better not. I must be careful of the company I keep. Okay, so I'll put Cat Caro back. Nope, no, Cat Caro gets back to her seat here. I think we're still going to use Cat Caro to search the city. I don't have... I can use the Furtive Truth, but it's maybe not the most important thing for me to be doing at the moment. And we found Pope Clifton. Alright, so there's another Mystique. And I have... I was under the impression I had a higher level lantern than just a Watchman's Secret, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Well, if I did, then I would have fulfilled the lantern commission, so let's not talk about those matters yet. Let's have a chat with Madame Bichet about that forge commission first. Alright, I have what was requested. And again, that's going to generate another Mystique, which is something that we're definitely looking for. I found someone who I might pay to enact regrettable necessities. Don't really need professional muscle. And tonight I sense an opportunity. Tonight I could attract attention if I cease to hold back, if I commit myself more fully. In this case I'm going to use the health. Tonight they'll notice that. And I've received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. So, good news about the Bronze Spintrea. That was the one that we didn't have. We also got an erudition out of that, which is good. This is one of the things I was sort of hoping to be getting out of my commissions. And then, of course, there is the extra Mystique. So, the reason why I wanted to get the commission in before talking about Lantern again is because it takes 10 seconds and that gets the counter running down, whereas talking about the Watchman's Secret's going to take 2 minutes. 1 minute for speaking about esoteric matters, and then another minute to actually bring the follower in. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards I received a gift from an admirer. Too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it on the second-hand market. So some extra money, always welcome. Okay, so as I said earlier, we're going to be taking care of the painting. Now, it's worth remembering what I want to be doing here is basically extending the life of, you know, basically cards where there's no... like cards that I'm sort of indifferent about whether or not they're around for another minute or so. So, I mean, I don't necessarily want the Mystique to go away faster, but of course, if I have a sea of Mystique and only one notoriety, the chances of that being picked up are considerably less than if I have 3 notoriety and I'm only using Mystique in the painting. So in this case, I'll take the 2 notoriety. Now, we've got a fairly high staleness, so I shouldn't have too many expectations about what will happen as a result of this painting, but still, you never know, this might be a living. And in this case here, I will do a painting of one of my Lantern followers. I can't do Pope Clifton because he's not yet in the cult, and so as a result does not have his Lantern. But we have Slee, I think. Where'd Slee go? Maybe I don't have Slee. Oh, there he is. But he's an acquaintance as well. All right, that makes things a little more complicated. So, once upon a time, doing a painting about a... Actually, no. Well, I could be cheeky and just do a painting about a lesson learned. Extend the life a little bit longer. Okay, we don't really need any more scraps, so let's go back to the Temple in the Wheel. Alright, of the wheel rather. And it's a peculiar rumor. I'm not going to use it here because I want to avoid generating any more notoriety, but under normal circumstances I would have used this. I came to the Temple of the Wheel, that high and jagged rock, that memorial to dead gods. Those who take their own lives sometimes first cast themselves from its peak and dream. I found another sleeping soul, scratching the sign of the eye into the lichen at its peak. I do not recall what passed between us, but I will recognize their face in the waking world. And I think I just want to go straight back to the wood. I am a little short on passion, but I don't see that as a deal breaker. I should also be looking at what's coming up. Season of Visions, so I may want to be a little worried about doing all passion paintings, but that's not going to last forever. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I'm not quite ready to do exotic pigments yet. And we just finished the Orchid Transfigurations. We must devour to be devoured. We cannot be undevoured, as we cannot be unborn. So we have another red secret. That's not really anything new for us, but happy to finish some books. And the Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 2, A Birth. The second volume of a compilation of quasi-Rosicrucian allegories, supposedly by Robert Flood. This is a later English translation. Flood, or pseudo-Flood, suggests alignments between the alchemical tradition of Rubidoux and the older Grail traditions, through the Pine Knight's quest for the Cinnabar Cup. And in this case, Season of Sickness coming up, but we will have the Vitality, so... Vitality is going to be close to finishing, I think, by the time the sickness, or by the time I'm actually able to deal with it, but as long as I keep the dream slot open, I should be fine. I see the mistakes, but I can also see the end. And better not, I must be careful of the company I keep, so once again, we'll send Cat Caro out. We are going to have to go back to the Gayety once the painting's done. Exceptional work. The Artist's Reward. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. So that's a really good payday here. Even without paying for the paints. Glimmering, again, not the real goal here. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. It's Mystique. So I don't think this is going to move the needle, but it's always nice to have a little extra life in the... for the lesson learnt. And now we'll go... So I could actually get away with a second painting if I really wanted, but in this case we'll just go back to the Gayety. There's no point in risking the job. The stage waits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay... Actually, I think I am gonna... No, sorry, I don't have the passion for it. I was gonna do a heavier passion painting, but... Yeah. If nothing else, performing at the Gayety gets me my passion back, so... The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Okay, so this is actually a good one for us. Okay, and the notoriety got picked up anyway, so... So we've got a... this will actually be a good one for us because if it'll tell me whether or not I found all the potential followers. We've got a hulking fellow, so that's not the most important thing for me to pick up right now. And let's follow up on the Temple of the Wheel. Trembling air, so that'll help us with the sickness if we get into trouble. In the wood beyond the walls of the mantis, a jagged rock rears like the petrified remains of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank, over the eye signs and lichen, and the crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, and I felt the thrumming of the wheel which is past. It is past, but something continues. Alright. Once again, let's just see where we're at. I'll move the passion up. Lots of health, but I don't need health for what I'm doing. And yes, we've got enough time to go back to the wood. Although that does mean that the painting... there are fewer opportunities for painting, but of course the point of painting was to get rid of the notoriety. I guess to extend the erudition as well, but... Now I pass between scar-barked trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I am now stumbling over roots. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. So if this turns into evidence, we'll probably have to hire a moth follower. but that just gives me another excuse to trigger Lantern with the Explorer verb. Seek the cup in the birthing bed, the Pine Knight is told. The midwife at the birthing bed, to his amazement, is the Mountain Mother. In a fit of awe, he both gelds and flays himself. The vigilant storm bursts joyfully from the remains. And we have the Megalesian incantation, so this is an improvement for us. The Great Mother remembers, so that's for Grail. Now, there's an important distinction, or not a distinction, but there's an important decision I need to make in terms of the study verb. So on its own, this doesn't really seem like all that big of a deal, but I am going to need to make a decision in terms of what I do with this erudition. Right now, at 85, it's not about to go away, but I don't have any erudition to move it into. And unfortunately, I don't have any guarantees of generating erudition unless I happen to know that Deoris Stum on what is contained by silver, on the true and complete accounting of the Asclepian mysteries of the roots of the house, De Bellis Murorum, or I don't believe you can actually read this one. Yeah. So unless one of these books gives me erudition, and of course we know for a fact this one, even if we could read it, we know for a fact that this one is not going to give us any erudition. If I'm going to try to turn this into a lesson learned, basically I need to make that decision now. So I can roll the dice and hope that I get an erudition from one of these other books. I would have to assume that Deoris is more likely to give me a glimmering because it's Moth affiliated. So in this case here, I'm going to sort of be a little more cautious and we'll apply our reason. Read whatever's to hand. The world is awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. So 60 seconds, we'll double up the erudition. Of course, this will fall to an erudition itself, unless, of course, we preserve it with painting or anything along those lines. But in this case here, I'm happy to be a little more cautious. Again, we don't really have that much more to read, so the cost isn't quite as high as it normally would be. Cost, of course, is an opportunity cost, not that I have to pay anything to read. I already paid when I went to Moorlands. Alright, so this time I don't think we had the opportunity to do anything special, but that's fine. Now the question would be, do I want to do a painting? Right now I really don't have the option, but in 20 seconds we'll have 3 passion to work with. I'm actually not opposed to using that. In fact, what's also nice is we'll get a passion from the talk verb, so let's go back to the Gayety because we can. The stage awaits, hot and clean and bare and bright. If I move the moves and step the steps and do what is required, they'll pay me. Of course, we'll have the talk verb freed up so we can get a commission from Madame Bichet. And we'll also have that passion back, so we'll be able to do a nice big 4 passion sort of mystique painting. Again, the mystique isn't as important as some of the other things that I can get, but... And we found Yzabet. It did occur to me I didn't actually read the description for Pope Clifton or Yzabet, so we'll take care of that in a second. And the importance of getting a mystique isn't as high as it used to be, but I'd still like to get the staleness down. So, Pope Clifton. A bellowing and an Orthodox Catholic with a mystic streak and an untrimmed beard. And Yzabet. Yzabet has always been most comfortable by moonlight. She has excellent night vision. She's often overlooked in daylight. And talk-wise, let's have a chat with Madame Bichet, see what she would like for the Carisham Review. She's seeking pieces for the notorious Carisham Review. And Light in the Skull is always welcome. That came from doing some exploration with Cat Caro. Whenever the principle of Lantern sheds its light, I may recall additional scraps of knowledge. So, of course, our earlier decision to use reason to try and get an extra erudition, turns out that wasn't as important. But we couldn't have known that at the time. And of course, that just means that we're so much closer to getting our third lesson learned. There's some ways that I can try and preserve the existing lesson learned, and we may actually find that we're able to level up the scholarship a little earlier than we were anticipating. So the world is awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. Sorry, and I should have been reading the hireling entry. So we'll send Cat Caro out again. Crowded thoroughfares by day, a fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll set my minions to searching for opportunities. And a light in the skull, whenever the principle of Lantern sheds its light, I may recall additional scraps of knowledge. Alright, let's go back to the Temple of the Wheel. In my sleep, I came to the high jagged rock, which is still called the Temple of the Wheel, though the hour-called wheel is long extinct. Another hand had scratched a secret in the Black Lantern on its flank. I burned that secret into my memory to preserve for waking, before the Velvet came out of the Velvet Wood depths and erased it. The Velvet is jealous of her secrets. So I'm willing to guess here, just based on the number of locations that were in the capital, we may already be at our limit in terms of the furtive truth, but again, it's just a question in terms of how we want to be spending our time. Sending Cat Caro out potentially gets me a light in the skull, whereas following with a furtive truth at the moment gets me an expedition which I'm not going to be going on to until at a minimum. So if we just assume that it takes 1 minute to do an expedition, which it never does, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes before we'd follow up. Again, if for whatever reason the expedition after Keeglan's Scratch is the most important one for me to go on, I could sort of collapse that timing a little bit, but that's essentially building a circumstance under which I would want to do those expeditions. So in this case here, it's just a question in terms of thinking about what events I want to have happen. Okay, so in this case we're just going to wait out the sickness. And then I'll use all the passion to get a painting done. Here's what she needs: a substantial Grail commission. So that's actually rather good that we read the Orchid Transfigurations. That means we can keep getting our reading done. And in fact, I probably under normal circumstances would do the Grail commission over doing the painting, except that the painting is something that's going to allow me to extend the life of this lesson learnt, so it's a little more important to me now. So we'll follow up, we'll talk about the Watchman's Secret. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And we probably got Street Strange by Moonlight coming up. Yeah. Well, there's no probably about that. I believe when you get that text, you always get Street Strange by Moonlight. Crowded thoroughfares by day, a fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll set my minions to searching for opportunities. And this illness has damaged my health. I will need to rest before I'm fully recovered. Disease has left me weak. I need rest and nourishment if I am to recover. So, of course, we'll take our vitality from the heart influence. All I need now is time. And in this case, we don't need to worry about the Season of Visions coming up, so we're a little safer as far as certain types of paintings are concerned. Words contain knowledge, and now I contain it. It's a little like theft, a little like feasting, and a little like the progress of an infectious disease. So here we'll employ health rather than passion. I am a listen package of flesh and blood. Tonight they'll notice that. And we will combine the two erudition right away. We couldn't combine it with the lesson learned even if we wanted to, and in 0.9 seconds. So it doesn't make a difference here, but this is going to be the longer lived of the two. So that was the reason to use this erudition. I picked up odd facts here and there. If I spend time studying what I've learned, I could increase my reason. So it is worth remembering, right? We only need one more erudition to be able to level up our scholarship. Now, we're kind of hanging on by our fingernails. This is going to require quite a bit of effort to try and extend its life, but we are setting ourselves up to get another light in the skull, and so as a result, potentially be able to extend the lesson learned as far as we need. All right, rumors squats on rooftops and flutters in gutters. This hunter is making progress in their investigation. A hunter has found evidence, real or imagined, of my sins. So, I can never remember where the weary detective goes. I think it's here. Found someplace unusual. So we'll send Cat Caro out again. If anything, just so we can find a moth follower, or a henchman. I felt all their eyes upon me. Afterwards, I received a gift from an admirer, too gaudy for my tastes, but I can sell it in the second-hand market. Okay, so we're doing painting again. Now there's I guess there's three purposes for this. So one, this is to try and reduce the staleness of my painting. Staleness is something that was introduced in the Ghoul DLC, I believe, to basically make painting a little bit less of a kind of a dominant strategy in terms of making money. So staleness will just generally lower the value of your paintings. And of course, it's just an interesting idea, right? The more you kind of try to appeal to commercial sensibilities, the more you try to second guess your audience, probably you're not necessarily doing your best work, and it maybe isn't something that speaks as strongly to you. Now, the other purpose of this is to try and extend the life of the lesson learned. So in this case, 35.3 seconds. It's kind of coming in under the wire fairly tight, but if we get a chance to extend, another lesson learned, so much the better, right? And if nothing else, once it decays, it's another erudition for me to work with. I have other ways of sort of managing all of that. And then, of course, first purpose, lower the staleness. Second, extend the life of the lesson learnt. But of course, because it's lantern, it also has the potential to generate a light in the skull. So this is one of these examples where, I realize I can sound a little sort of finicky in terms of making particular decisions. But this is just one of these examples where, when I want to try and play the odds in Cultist Simulator to get a particular outcome, these are the sorts of things that I try to do to make the most of a given turn. All right, fortune teller. So this is someone I can actually send out. We've already got some notoriety, so let's hire the fortune teller, even though their chances are fairly low. This will buy their loyalty for now. A nice side effect of this is when I send them to do the job, I also get a potential light in the skull. So this time we won't pay for the paints. That's not really the purpose of that run. And my own heart pumps more strongly today. And in this case, we get a rumor. Actually, I was wrong. We don't have any notoriety. All that I am is here. Now, there's a possibility we generate some fascination as a result of this, but I can work with that. Now I pass between scarbark trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I'm stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. Alright, my mind the library. So the question as always becomes, do I want to try my luck with some of these other books, or do I want to keep studying? And in this case, we're so close to getting our scholarship up, I will read whatever's to hand. The world's awash with printed words. Even the newspapers contain knowledge sometimes. So this is basically just putting me on the path to... Maybe I don't want to hire this fortune teller after all. I'll explain the change of heart in a second. My recent work has drawn some attention. Something should sell. So a lot of glimmering, or mystique, it seems like. So that helped us get rid of some... that helped us get rid of some staleness for sure. Let's go back to the Gayety as soon as we can. So now we know we're going to lose this this erudition, but that's fine. The stage awaits hot and clean. Well, okay, sorry, that's not entirely true. I could do a reputation-based painting. Yeah, you know what? Okay, let me just take a second here to think. Is there a credible scenario under which this erudition survives long enough? So if it takes about a minute to paint, that gives me the time to combine the existing erudition into a lesson learned. It's actually cutting close to the wire, but I think this is worth... the shot. Even though it means that I'm potentially going to get my staleness back up. So you never know, this might be a living. So we will use the lesson learned as an inspiration again. Or not, I must be careful of the company I keep. So the reason I didn't hire the fortune teller is that right now we don't have any notoriety, which means that the evidence is not going to be advanced. The only way that I can advance that evidence is if I generate notoriety. Now, the likelihood of this event failing is pretty high at a 3 moth. So what's more likely to happen is the inept attempt to destroy the evidence. It's, the old saying, right? It's not the crime, it's the cover-up. In this case, the inept effort to destroy the evidence would have generated the notoriety that would turn that into damning, and I really don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to deal with damning evidence. And on that note, actually, it's not a bad time for us to wrap things up. So, as you can see, the aim is to go pretty aggressive at getting our next level of scholarship up. It's mostly just because it's so easy, especially because we've got the collections of essays. It's so easy for us to get to that 4th level immediately afterwards. So if we can just kind of clear that off my plate, it's so much better. Then there will be a bit of time where we sort of bring some more people into the cult. It's actually one of the reasons why I've been focusing so much on trying to get the, getting the number of followers in as quickly as I can. It's not just about generating light in the skull, but it's also to try and maximize the number of people that we're getting in touch with. And as you can see, hangers-on I'm not that worried about, but we do still have quite a few acquaintances. So Enid, Sylvia, Saliba, Eau Claire, Porter, Violet, Leo, Dorothy, Slee, Victor, Pope Clifton, Elizabeth, Neville, Rose, and Clovette are all acquaintances. So clearly I want to be going on some of these expeditions, and I would like to have people at the highest levels that they can be. So there's going to be a lot of effort to just try and get them to higher levels in order to be able to follow up on some of these expeditions. Also, I'll want to make sure that I have a fairly high level heart follower in order to be able to get rid of the reputation that comes from doing these expeditions. But of course, all of that will be happening in a future episode. Thank you very much for watching. Now is the time to advertise to you. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you would like, it does help me to get these videos noticed. And of course, it's also nice to just see, if you liked it, to leave a like and comment as well. It's not just purely for my benefit. It is also nice to sort of know where the episodes are working. And of course, you can let me know what you think of them. Although please remain respectful. I've been delighted, actually, a few of you do that. And some of you have actually been really regular in terms of writing a message on each of the videos, which is quite nice. But it's never expected, but it is something that does help me out, and I really appreciate it. I will see you on Wednesday with the next episode. Take care.